The metal corridors of Omega-7 Station rang with the sound of boots marching in perfect time. Cadets from across the galaxy walked these halls, their uniforms crisp and their faces serious. This was the Galactic Military Academy, where the best and brightest came to become officers in the Interstellar Defense Corps. But when Cadet 13 walked down these same corridors, something different happened. Other cadets pressed themselves against the walls. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Eyes looked down at the floor. The 8-foot-tall figure moved like a hunter, each step careful and strong. His dark green skin had patterns that glowed blue when he was angry or excited. Sharp claws clicked against his sides as he walked. This was what fear looked like in the academy. Cadet 13 belonged to the Krex species. Back on his home world, the Krex lived in packs and fought for everything they had. The strong took what they wanted. The weak served or died. It was simple. It made sense. Here at the academy, surrounded by dozens of alien species, Cadet 13 had decided the same rules should apply. The dining hall fell quiet when he entered. Cadets who had been laughing and talking suddenly found their food very interesting. Cadet 13 walked to the front of the line, past a group of small blue Altarians who stepped aside without a word. He took the best portions of food and found a table in the center of the room. No one sat near him. This was how he liked it. At a corner table, 3 Zephyrian cadets whispered to each other. The Zephyrians were tall and thin with large heads that held their famous brains. They considered themselves the smartest species in the galaxy. One of them, Cadet Vex, looked toward Cadet 13 with obvious disgust. "Look at him," Vex said quietly to his friends. "Acting like some primitive beast. This is supposed to be a place of learning and honor." His friend Cadet Nira nodded. "The instructors only keep him here because the Krex government pays so much money to the academy. They want to prove their species can be civilized." "Well, they are failing," said the 3rd Zephyrian, Cadet Lore. "You saw what he did to that poor Centaurian in combat training yesterday. Nearly tore his arm off." Cadet 13 heard every word. His species had excellent hearing. He turned his head toward them and let his threat patterns glow brighter. The blue lines along his neck and arms pulsed with light. All 3 Zephyrians immediately looked away and stopped talking. Cadet 13 smiled, showing teeth that could bite through metal. This was his world. This was how things worked. The strong ruled and the weak obeyed. It did not matter that the Zephyrians could solve math problems he could never understand. It did not matter that the Altarians could speak 20 languages. When it came to real power, the kind that mattered when the shooting started, Cadet 13 was the strongest thing in the room. After dinner, he walked to his quarters in the best part of the cadet housing block. Other cadets had tried to get these rooms through the normal request system. Cadet 13 had simply told the housing officer that he wanted them. The officer, a nervous little creature from Rigel Prime, had quickly agreed. No paperwork was needed. When you had claws and stood 8 feet tall. His room was twice the size of normal cadet quarters. It had the best view of space through large windows. It had its own bathroom instead of the shared facilities most cadets used. Cadet 13 lay on his bed and looked out at the stars. Tomorrow would bring more classes, more training, and more chances to remind everyone who was really in charge here. The next morning brought combat tactics class with Instructor Vale, a former military officer from the war with the hegemony. Vale was one of the few instructors who was not afraid of Cadet 13. He had seen real combat and knew that being scary was not the same as being a good soldier. "Today we will practice small unit tactics," Vale announced to the class of 30 cadets. You will work in teams of 5. Each team will have a mix of species and abilities. Cadet 13 waited to see which unlucky cadets would be put on his team. Usually, the teams were chosen randomly by computer, but as Vale read the names, Cadet 13 heard something unexpected. Team 7 will be Cadet 13, Cadet Pix, Cadet Zorn, Cadet Hayes, and our new arrival, Cadet Martinez. Cadet 13 looked around the room. He knew Pix, a small, furry creature who was good with technology. Zorn was from a desert world and could go days without water. Hayes was human, one of only a few human cadets at the academy. But Martinez was new. He had never heard that name before. "Cadet Martinez, please stand up," Vale said. From the back of the room, a figure stood up. Cadet 13 expected to see another alien species he did not recognize. Instead, he saw something that made him pause. The new cadet was human, like Hayes, but smaller and clearly female. She had dark hair pulled back in a simple style and brown eyes that looked directly at him without fear. But that was not the strangest part. In her arms, she held a small orange and white creature. It had 4 legs, a long tail, and the biggest green eyes Cadet 13 had ever seen. The creature looked around the room with what seemed like curiosity rather than fear. Cadet Martinez just arrived from Earth, Vale continued. She has special permission to keep her emotional support animal with her during classes. This is Ginger, her cat. The room filled with whispers. Most of the alien species had never seen a cat before. To them, it looked like a small predator, but one that seemed remarkably calm for being in a room full of creatures that could easily kill it. Cadet 13 stared at the human and her cat. In his experience, only the strong survived at the academy. This human was small, even by human standards, and she had brought what looked like prey along with her. It made no sense. As the teams gathered for their first exercise, Cadet 13 watched Martinez walk toward him. The other team members, Pix, Zorn, and Hayes, kept their distance from him as usual, but Martinez walked right up to him with her cat still in her arms. "Hi," she said in a voice that was friendly but not nervous. "I am Lisa Martinez. This is Ginger." She held up the cat, who looked at Cadet 13 with what seemed like mild interest. Cadet 13 looked down at the human. She was barely 5.5 feet tall. Her uniform was perfectly clean and properly worn, but she looked like she would break if he breathed on her too hard. Yet she showed no fear. She did not look away from his glowing threat patterns. She just stood there holding her small animal and waiting for him to respond. "I am Cadet 13, he said finally, his voice deep and rough. "Nice to meet you, Cadet 13, Lisa said. Then she did something completely unexpected. She smiled. The cat in her arms made a strange rumbling sound. Cadet 13 had never heard anything like it before. It was soft and somehow peaceful. The sound seemed to vibrate through the air. "She is purring," Lisa explained. "She does that when she is happy or content." Cadet 13 looked at the cat again. This tiny creature was content in a room full of aliens who could kill it without thinking. It made no sense at all. Nothing about this human and her animal made sense. As Vale called the teams to begin their first exercise, Cadet 13 found himself thinking about the human's smile and the strange sound her cat made. For the first time since arriving at the academy, he felt confused about something that had nothing to do with mathematics or alien languages. Team 7 gathered around their assigned tactical problem. Cadet 13 prepared to take charge the way. He always did. But as he opened his mouth to give orders, he found himself looking at Lisa Martinez again. She was setting her cat down carefully on the floor and pulling out her data pad to review their assignment. The cat, Ginger, looked up at Cadet 13 and made that strange purring sound again. Then, to his complete shock, it walked over to his feet and rubbed against his leg like he was not the most dangerous thing in the room. Cadet 13 looked down at the small orange creature that showed no fear of him at all. Something was different here. Something was changing. He did not know what it meant, but for the first time in his life, he was curious about something other than showing his strength. The exercise was about to begin, and nothing would ever be the same. The zero-gravity combat arena floated in the center of Omega 7 Station like a giant metal sphere. Inside, cadets learned to fight and move without the pull of gravity to help them. It was one of the hardest parts of academy training. Many cadets failed here and were sent home to their worlds in shame. Cadet 13 loved the combat arena. Without gravity to slow him down, he could move like the hunter he was born to be. His claws gave him grip on the metal walls. His strong muscles let him push off surfaces with great force. In zero gravity, he was even more dangerous than on solid ground. Today's exercise was different from the usual combat training. Instead of fighting each other, the cadets had to work in teams to complete a rescue mission. The arena had been set up to look like a damaged spaceship. Teams had to get inside, find survivors, and get them to safety before time ran out. Lisa Martinez floated near the entrance to the arena with Ginger in a special clear carrier designed for zero gravity. The cat looked calm, despite being in a place no Earth cat had ever been before. Other cadets stared at the strange sight of a human bringing a pet into combat training. "Teams will enter the arena one at a time," announced Instructor Kane, a veteran officer who had lost his left arm in real space combat. "You have 30 minutes to complete the rescue. Failure means your entire team repeats basic zero-gravity training." Team 7 lined up at the entrance. Cadet 13 was ready to take charge and show these weaker species how a real warrior handled problems. But as they waited their turn, he found himself watching Lisa prepare her equipment. She moved with careful precision, checking each tool and securing everything so it would not float away in zero gravity. "Have you done zero-gravity training before?" asked Hayes, the other human on the team. "Some," Lisa replied, "but not like this. On Earth, we practice in special aircraft that give us short periods without gravity. Nothing like a full combat arena." Cadet 13 listened to this conversation with interest. Humans were known to be adaptable, but they came from a world with strong gravity. This would be much harder for them than for species that evolved in space or on low-gravity worlds. When their turn came, Team 7 entered the arena. The inside looked like a disaster area. Broken metal pieces floated everywhere. Sparks shot from damaged electrical systems. Emergency lights flashed red, making everything look dangerous and confusing. "Standard rescue formation," Cadet 13 commanded, taking charge as he always did. "Pix, you scan for survivors. Zorn, secure the entry point. Hayes and Martinez, stay behind me and do what I tell you." The team spread out through the fake damaged ship. Pix, the small furry creature, used his technical skills to access the ship's computer systems. His scanner showed 5 survivors trapped in different parts of the arena. But there was a problem. "The life support system is failing," Pix reported, his voice high with worry. "We have maybe 15 minutes before the air runs out for the survivors." Cadet 13 felt confident. 15 minutes was plenty of time for a warrior like him. He would smash through whatever was in his way and drag the survivors to safety. It would be simple and direct. But as they moved deeper into the arena, things became more complicated. The first survivor was trapped behind a heavy door that had been damaged in the simulated disaster. Cadet 13 attacked the door with his claws and strength, trying to tear it open. Metal pieces flew through the zero gravity, but the door barely moved. "The structural integrity is too high," Pix said, checking his scanner. "It would take an hour to break through with physical force." Cadet 13 snarled in frustration. His glowing patterns pulsed with anger. On his world, problems were solved with strength and violence. Here, those methods were not working. While he struggled with the door, Lisa floated over to examine the problem. She looked at the damaged frame and the way the door had been twisted by the simulated explosion. Ginger watched from her carrier, making her purring sound. "The door is not really stuck," Lisa said quietly. "The frame is bent, but if we can straighten it just a little bit, the door should slide open normally." "How do we straighten a metal frame?" Hayes asked. Lisa looked around the area and spotted some emergency repair tools floating nearby. She gathered them up and examined each one carefully. Then she did something that surprised everyone. She took 3 different tools and connected them together in a way they were not designed to be used. If we apply force at exactly the right angle, the frame should pop back into shape, she explained. But we need to be very precise. Cadet 13 watched as Lisa positioned her improvised tool and began to work on the doorframe. She moved slowly and carefully, adjusting the pressure bit by bit. It looked like a waste of time to him. A true warrior would have found a way to smash through by now. But then, something amazing happened. With a loud click, the door frame straightened out and the door slid open easily. The first survivor, a training robot designed to look injured, was right there waiting for them. "How did you know that would work?" Zorn asked as they secured the survivor. "I did not know for sure," Lisa admitted. "But sometimes when things are broken, they just need to be adjusted instead of replaced." They moved on to the second survivor. This one was trapped in a section where the artificial gravity was malfunctioning. Instead of zero gravity, this area had random gravity that pointed in different directions every few seconds. It made movement almost impossible. Cadet 13 tried to fight his way through the changing gravity, but kept getting thrown against the walls. His usual tactics of speed and strength were useless here. The other team members had similar problems. Even Pix, who was good at technical challenges, could not figure out how to turn off the malfunctioning system. Lisa floated at the edge of the gravity field and watched the pattern for several minutes. Ginger made soft chirping sounds from her carrier as if she was trying to help solve the problem. "The gravity changes every 12 seconds, Lisa observed. "And it follows a pattern. Down, left, up, right, then diagonal down left, up right, down right, up left, then back to down." "So what?" Cadet 13 demanded. "Knowing the pattern does not help us get through it." "Yes, it does," Lisa said. "If we time our movements with the pattern, we can use the gravity changes to help us instead of fighting against them." She demonstrated by pushing off from the wall, just as the gravity switched to pull her in the direction she wanted to go. The changing gravity field carried her safely to the trapped survivor and back out again. "That is impossible," Hayes said. "The timing would have to be perfect." "Not perfect," Lisa corrected. "Just good enough." One by one, the team members followed Lisa's example and used the gravity pattern to rescue the second survivor. Even Cadet 13 had to admit that her method worked better than trying to force his way through. As they continued through the arena, Lisa kept finding creative solutions to problems that seemed impossible. When they encountered a section filled with dangerous electrical energy, she figured out how to redirect the power to work for them instead of against them. When they found a survivor trapped under heavy debris, she used the arena's own damaged systems to lift the weight instead of trying to move it by force. Cadet 13 found himself following her suggestions more and more. It felt strange to let someone else take the lead, especially someone so much smaller and weaker than him. But her methods got results. They rescued all 5 survivors with 3 minutes to spare. As they exited the arena, Instructor Kane looked surprised. Team 7 completes the exercise in 27 minutes. That ties the Academy record. The other cadets who were waiting for their turn stared at Team 7 with amazement. No one had expected them to do so well, especially not with 2 humans on the team. "How did you solve the gravity maze so quickly?" asked Cadet Prime, the Zephyrian who usually had the best scores in tactical exercises. Cadet 13 looked at Lisa, expecting her to explain her clever methods, but she just shrugged and said, "We worked together as a team." Later, as the cadets returned to their quarters, Cadet 13 found himself walking next to Lisa and her cat. He had been thinking about what happened in the arena. Her solutions had been smart, but that was not what puzzled him the most. "Why did you not take credit for the rescue methods?" he asked her. "The other cadets think I was the leader, but you solved most of the problems." Lisa looked at him with those calm brown eyes. "We all did our part. Pix found the survivors. Zorn secured our entry points. Hayes helped coordinate our movements. You made sure we stayed focused and did not waste time. I just helped with some technical issues." "But you could have made yourself look better by explaining your methods," Cadet 13 insisted. In his culture, taking credit for victories was very important. It showed strength and earned respect. "Why would I want to make my teammates look bad?" Lisa asked. "We succeeded because we worked together. That is what matters." Ginger made her purring sound from inside her carrier. The small cat looked at Cadet 13 with those big green eyes, as if she agreed with everything her human had said. Cadet 13 thought about this as he reached his quarters. On his world, individual strength was everything. You fought for your own glory and took credit for your victories. But Lisa seemed to think that team success was more important than personal recognition. It was a confusing idea. But as he lay on his bed that night, looking out at 3 months had passed since the ice planet survival exercise. Back at the academy, Cadet 13 found himself in a strange new routine. Instead of eating alone in the center of the dining hall, he now sat with Team 7 at a corner table. Instead of spending his free time in his quarters planning ways to intimidate other cadets, he found himself in the common areas learning about his teammates. The change had happened slowly, so slowly that he had not noticed it at first. It started with small things. Lisa would ask him questions about Krex culture during study sessions. Hayes would include him in conversations about military tactics. Even Pix had begun showing him interesting technical problems that required both intelligence and strength to solve. But the biggest change involved Ginger. The small orange cat had somehow decided that Cadet 13 was her friend. She would seek him out during breaks between classes, rubbing against his legs and purring in that strange way that made his whole body feel more relaxed. Other cadets had stopped staring in fear when they saw the massive Krex warrior gently petting a tiny earth cat. She really likes you, Lisa said one evening as they sat in the study lounge. Ginger was curled up on Cadet 13's lap, a sight that would have been impossible to imagine just a few months earlier. I do not understand why, Cadet 13 replied quietly. He was always careful to keep his voice soft when Ginger was sleeping on him. My people do not have animals like this. We have large beasts that we hunt or creatures that we raise for food. Nothing like her. Cats choose their own friends, Lisa explained. You cannot force a cat to like you. She trusts you because you have shown her kindness. Cadet 13 thought about this. Kindness was not a concept that existed in Krek's culture. Strength, courage, and loyalty to the pack were valued. But kindness to small, weak creatures was seen as wasteful or even shameful. Yet here he was, enjoying the company of the smallest, weakest creature he had ever met. And somehow, that relationship was changing him in ways he was still trying to understand. The change became more obvious during combat training. In the past, Cadet 13 had dominated these exercises through pure aggression and intimidation. Other cadets would either flee from him or freeze in terror when he attacked. It was effective, but it was also lonely. Now, working with Team 7, he discovered that there were better ways to win fights. Lisa had taught him about strategy and patience. Hayes showed him how humans use teamwork to overcome stronger enemies. Even Ginger contributed by staying calm during loud, chaotic training exercises, which helped the whole team remain focused. Your combat style has changed, observed Instructor Kane after a particularly successful team exercise. You are still using your natural advantages, but now you are thinking before you attack. Is that bad? Cadet 13 asked. He was still learning to value things other than pure aggression. It is very good, Kane replied. A warrior who can think is far more dangerous than one who can only fight. You are becoming a complete soldier instead of just a weapon. These words stayed with Cadet 13 as he walked back to his quarters that evening. He passed other cadets in the hallway, and for the first time he noticed that some of them nodded respectfully instead of looking away in fear. The change was small, but it was real. Lisa was waiting for him in the common area with Ginger in her arms. The cat immediately jumped down and ran over to him, as if she had been waiting all day for this reunion. How was Advanced Tactics class? Lisa asked as they settled into their usual chairs. Difficult, Cadet 13 admitted. The instructor wanted us to plan a defensive strategy for protecting a civilian colony. My first idea was to attack the enemy before they could reach the colony. That sounds like a good plan, Lisa said. The instructor said it was only half a plan. He wanted to know what we would do if the attack failed. What if there were civilians in the enemy territory? What if attacking first made the situation worse instead of better? Lisa nodded thoughtfully. Those are good questions. What did you decide? I had no answers, Cadet 13 said, feeling frustrated. My people have simple solutions. Fight hard, win, protect the pack. But these academy problems have so many variables, so many things that could go wrong. Ginger purred louder and pushed, her head against his hand, as if she could sense his confusion and wanted to comfort him. Maybe that is the point, Lisa suggested. Real military situations are complicated. There are no simple answers that work every time. That is why officers need to think about many different possibilities. Over the following weeks, Cadet 13 found himself spending more time with Lisa and Ginger outside of official team activities. Lisa would help him with his tactical studies, explaining human approaches to problem-solving that were very different from Krek's methods. In return, he taught her about Krek's combat techniques and survival skills. Ginger seemed to enjoy these study sessions. She would sit on the table between them, occasionally walking across their data pads or batting at their styluses when she wanted attention. Other cadets who used the study areas had gotten used to seeing the unlikely trio working together. "I have been thinking about what you said about kindness," Cadet 13 said one evening as they reviewed plans for their upcoming final examinations. "What about it?" Lisa asked, looking up from her notes. "My people believe that showing kindness to weak creatures makes you weak." "But you are kind to Ginger, and you are one of the strongest people I know." Lisa smiled. "Strength is not just about physical power or being able to hurt things. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is protect something smaller than yourself." As if she understood the conversation, Ginger walked over to Cadet 13 and began grooming his finger with her small pink tongue. The gesture was gentle and trusting in a way that no Krex would ever show to another being. "She is teaching me something," Cadet 13 said quietly. "I do not have words for it in my language." "What do you think she is teaching you?" Lisa asked. Cadet 13 was quiet for a long moment, trying to find the right words. That being trusted is better than being feared, that protecting something makes you stronger, not weaker, that there are different kinds of courage. These ideas would have been considered dangerous weakness on his home world, but here at the Academy, surrounded by dozens of different species with different values, they were beginning to make sense to him. The friendship between the three of them became legendary among the cadets. Other students would point them out, to new arrivals, as proof that the Academy really was a place where anyone could succeed if they were willing to work together. "There goes Cadet 13, with the human and her cat," they would whisper. 6 months ago, everyone was afraid of him. Now, look at him. What they saw was a massive Krex warrior walking slowly so that his human friend could keep up, while a small orange cat rode on his shoulder like she owned the place. It was a sight that challenged everything most species believed about natural hierarchies and predator-prey relationships. But for Cadet 13, Lisa, and Ginger, it was simply friendship. They had found something together that none of them had possessed alone: trust, loyalty, and a kind of strength that did not depend on fear or intimidation. The change in Cadet 13 became even more obvious during a crisis that struck the Academy without warning. A massive solar flare disrupted the station's power systems, causing failures throughout Omega 7. Emergency lighting flickered on as the main power grid went down. In the confusion that followed, many cadets panicked. Some tried to get to the emergency shuttles. Others barricaded themselves in their quarters. The Academy's carefully maintained order broke down as fear took over. Cadet 13 felt his old instincts rising. This was the kind of situation where the strong survived by taking what they needed from the weak. He could easily force his way onto an evacuation shuttle or claim the best emergency supplies for himself. But as he started to move toward the emergency lockers, he heard a familiar sound. Ginger was crying in distress somewhere in the darkness. Lisa was calling for her cat, but the noise and confusion made it impossible to locate her. Without thinking, Cadet 13 changed direction. Instead of securing his own survival, he began searching for a small cat that most beings would consider worthless in an emergency. His superior hearing and night vision, evolved for hunting, now served a very different purpose. He found Ginger, trapped under some equipment that had fallen when the power failed. The cat was frightened, but uninjured. As soon as she saw him, she began purring despite her fear. "I have her," he called to Lisa as he carefully freed the cat from the debris. "She is safe." When the emergency was over and power was restored, other cadets talked about how they had protected themselves during the crisis. But Cadet 13 found himself thinking about something else entirely. In the moment when survival instincts should have taken over, his first thought had been to help a friend. That night, as they sat in Lisa's quarters making sure Ginger had recovered from her scare, Cadet 13 realized how much he had changed. "Thank you for finding her," Lisa said quietly. "I know you could have used that time to secure better emergency supplies for yourself." "That never occurred to me," Cadet 13 replied, and he was surprised to realize it was true. "I heard her crying, and I had to help." Ginger was curled up between them, purring contentedly as if the day's crisis had never happened. She looked up at Cadet 13 with complete trust, the way she had looked at him every day for months. "She has changed you," Lisa obs. The announcement came during the morning assembly when all cadets gathered in the main auditorium. Major Brooks stood at the podium, her expression serious as she prepared to deliver news that would change everything for the senior cadets. "In 2 weeks you will face your final examination," she began. "This will not be a simulation or a training exercise. You will be deployed to Kepler 442c for 1 month of real survival and leadership testing." A murmur ran through the assembled cadets. Everyone knew about Kepler 442c. It was a planet where the Academy sent cadets who needed to prove they could handle actual military situations. The wildlife was aggressive, the weather was unpredictable, and the terrain was dangerous enough to challenge even experienced soldiers. "You will be divided into squads of 12 cadets each," Major Brooks continued. "Each squad will establish a base camp, complete resource-gathering missions, and demonstrate effective leadership under real-world conditions. Most importantly, each squad will elect its own leader through anonymous voting." Cadet 13 felt his stomach tighten. Leadership elections were common in the Academy, but he had never been chosen for anything through voting. Other cadets respected his combat abilities now, but respect was different from trust. Would anyone really vote for a Krex to lead them into danger? After the assembly, the squad assignments were posted on the main bulletin board. Cadet 13 found his name on Squad 7, along with Lisa, Hayes, Pix, and Zorn. The rest of the squad included cadets from various species that he knew but had never worked with closely. "Looks like we are together again," Lisa said, appearing beside him with Ginger in her arms. The cat had grown during their months at the Academy, and now wore a small harness that allowed her to ride safely on people's shoulders during training exercises. "Are you worried about the leadership vote?" Hayes asked quietly. Cadet 13 nodded. "No Krex has ever been chosen as squad leader through voting. We usually lead through challenge combat or pack hierarchy. I do not know how to ask people to choose me." "Maybe you do not need to ask," Lisa suggested. "Maybe you just need to show them who you have become." Over the next week, Squad 7 met regularly to prepare for their mission. The other squad members included Vera, a tall Centaurian with excellent medical training, Dex, a quick-thinking Regellian who specialized in communications, Kayla, a strong Denarian female who could lift twice her body weight, and several others with different specialties. During these planning sessions, Cadet 13 found himself in an unusual position. Instead of dominating the discussions through intimidation, he listened to everyone's ideas and tried to find ways to combine their different strengths. Lisa had taught him that good leaders help their teams succeed rather than just giving orders. "We will need to establish our base camp within the first 3 days. Vera said, reviewing the mission parameters. The weather reports show a major storm system approaching the landing zone. I can handle shelter construction, Kayla offered. My people build structures that can withstand almost anything. Communications will be critical, Dex added. If we lose contact with the Academy, we could be stranded for months instead of weeks. Cadet 13 absorbed all of this information, thinking about how each team member's abilities could be used most effectively. It was a very different approach from his old method of simply telling everyone what to do. What about food and water? Asked Chen, a quiet human who specialized in environmental science. The planet has edible plants and animals, Cadet 13 said, but they will be difficult to find and dangerous to hunt. We will need to be very careful and work together. As he spoke, Ginger jumped from Lisa's shoulder to his, settling into her favorite position. Several squad members smiled at the sight. The friendship between the massive Krex warrior and the tiny Earth cat had become a symbol of what was possible when different species worked together. The night before departure, Squad 7 held their leadership election. Each member wrote one name on a piece of paper and dropped it into a sealed box. Major Parker, their supervising officer, would count the votes and announce the results after they landed on Kepler 4442c Cadet. 13 tried not to think about the election as he packed his gear. He had put his own name on the ballot, but he had no idea what others had chosen. Part of him wondered if he even wanted to be leader. Leadership meant being responsible for everyone's safety, not just his own. The transport ship that carried them to Kepler 442c was smaller and more military-focused than the Academy ships. There were no comfortable passenger areas or large windows. This was a vessel designed for delivering soldiers to dangerous places and bringing them back alive. During the 3-day journey, Cadet 13 found himself watching his squad mates more carefully than ever before. These were the people he might be leading into danger. Vera was smart and capable, but had never faced real combat. Dex was brave, but physically weak. Kayla was strong, but sometimes too eager to prove herself. Each of them had strengths and weaknesses. A good leader would need to understand all of these factors and find ways to use everyone's abilities while protecting them from their limitations. "You are thinking very hard about something," Lisa observed on the second day of the journey. They were in the ship's small recreation area, and Ginger was playing with a toy that Pix had made for her. "I am thinking about leadership," Cadet 13 admitted. "My people lead through strength and fear, but that will not work with this squad. You are not my pack. You choose to follow or not follow." "What kind of leader do you want to be?" Lisa asked. Cadet 13 watched Ginger chase her toy around the small room. The cat showed no fear, only joy in the simple act of playing. She trusted that the people around her would keep her safe, just as the squad members would need to trust their leader. "I want to be the kind of leader who brings everyone home safely," he said finally. "Not just the strong ones. Everyone." When they landed on Kepler 442c, Major Parker gathered the squad for the announcement of election results. The planet around them looked even more hostile than the reports had suggested. Strange plants grew in twisted shapes, and the air carried sounds of creatures that might be dangerous or just unfamiliar. "By unanimous vote," Major Parker announced, "Squad 7 has chosen Cadet 13 as their leader." Cadet 13 felt shock run through his entire body. Unanimous meant everyone had voted. For him, even Lisa and Hayes, who could have chosen someone from their own species. Even Vera and Dex, who barely knew him beyond team exercises. "Congratulations, Squad Leader Cadet 13, Major Parker continued. Your squad has 30 days to complete their mission objectives and signal for pickup. Good luck. As the transport ship lifted off, leaving Squad 7 alone on the hostile planet, Cadet 13 looked at the 11 faces watching him expectantly. These people had chosen to trust him with their lives. It was the greatest honor he had ever received, and the greatest responsibility. "Thank you for choosing me," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "I will do everything I can to earn that trust." Ginger meowed from her position on Lisa's shoulder, as if she was adding her own vote of confidence. "What are your orders, squad leader?" Kayla asked formally. Cadet 13 took a deep breath and looked around at the alien landscape that would be their home for the next month. Everything he had learned about leadership, teamwork, and friendship was about to be tested under the most challenging conditions possible. "First, we establish a secure perimeter," he said, falling into the natural command voice he had been developing. "Vera, I need you to scan for immediate environmental hazards. Dex, set up communications and establish contact with the Academy. Kala, start looking for the best location for our base camp." As his squad members moved to follow his orders, Cadet 13 felt something he had never experienced before. This was not the hollow satisfaction of dominating others through fear. This was the deep fulfillment of being trusted to protect people who had chosen to follow him. Lisa approached him as the others spread out to begin their tasks. "How does it feel to be squad leader?" she asked. "Terrifying," Cadet 13 admitted, "but also right somehow. Like this is what I was meant to become." Ginger purred from Lisa's shoulder, looking out at the strange new world with the same fearless curiosity she showed everywhere. If a small Earth cat could face the unknown with such confidence, then perhaps a Krex warrior could learn to lead with wisdom instead of just strength. The real test was just beginning, but for the first time in his life, Cadet 13 felt ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. He was no longer just a warrior. He was a leader, chosen by his peers and prepared to prove that trust was not misplaced. The month ahead would test everything he had learned about friendship, cooperation, and the kind of strength that came from protecting others instead of dominating them. But he would not face those challenges alone. He had his squad, he had Lisa's wisdom, and he had a small orange cat who reminded him every day that courage came in many different forms. Squad 7 was ready to begin their final test, led by a warrior who had learned that the greatest victories were won not through fear, but through earning the trust and loyalty of those who chose to follow. Commander Jake Morrison sat in his office aboard the Earth Defense Station, drinking his third cup of coffee that morning. The paperwork on his desk seemed to grow bigger every day. Supply reports, patrol schedules, and training records covered every inch of the metal surface. He rubbed his tired eyes and wondered if joining the Space Force had been the right choice. The communication console beeped 3 times. Jake looked up from his papers and pressed the accept button. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a tall figure made of what looked like living crystal. The being's face had sharp angles that caught the light, and its voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Commander Morrison of the Human Defense Forces," the crystal being said. "I am Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Council. I bring greetings from the Galactic Assembly." Jake leaned back in his chair. In 15 years since humanity had joined the galactic community, he had never received a direct message from someone so high up in the alien government. Most aliens treated humans like children who had just learned to walk. "Good morning, Ambassador," Jake replied. "What can I do for you?" Veltar's crystalline features shifted slightly. You have been selected to represent your species in a most important event. The Extinction Protocol simulation will begin in 30 standard days. This is a great honor for humanity. Jake had heard whispers about the Extinction Protocol simulation during his training. It was supposed to be the hardest military test in the galaxy. No species had ever completed it successfully in its 200-year history. The simulation tested entire civilizations against threats that could destroy all life in the galaxy. "Why me?" Jake asked. "There are plenty of more experienced officers in the human fleet." "Your military record shows creative thinking under pressure," Veltar said. "The simulation requires commanders who can adapt to impossible situations. Your species may bring a fresh perspective to this ancient challenge." Jake almost laughed. Fresh perspective was a nice way of saying the aliens thought humans were too stupid to use normal tactics. He had seen this attitude before. Other species looked at humanity like they were amusing pets who had somehow learned to build spaceships. "What exactly does this simulation involve?" Jake asked. The Crystal Ambassador's form grew brighter. Teams from different species must prevent a galaxy-wide extinction event. The enemy force, known as the Devourers, adapts to any strategy used against them. They become stronger with each victory. No civilization has ever found a way to stop them completely. "And you want humans to try because everyone else has failed?" "The Galactic Assembly believes diversity of thought may be the key to success," Veltar said. "Your species approaches problems differently than others. This difference may prove valuable." Jake set down his coffee cup and stared at the alien. Diplomat. Every instinct told him this was a setup. The galaxy's most powerful species had tried and failed at this simulation for 2 centuries. Now they wanted to watch humanity fail too, probably for their entertainment. "I need to discuss this with my superiors," Jake said. "Of course. You have 3 standard days to provide your answer. The simulation will take place at Nexus Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Assembly. You may bring a small team of advisors." Holographic display shut off, leaving Jake alone with his thoughts. He picked up his secure communication device and called Admiral Lisa Carter, his commanding officer. Admiral Carter's face appeared on the screen within seconds. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her sharp blue eyes looked tired. She had been fighting for human respect in the galaxy longer than anyone else in the service. "Jake, what's so urgent that you're using the secure line?" she asked. "I just got invited to participate in something called the Extinction Protocol simulation," Jake said. "Ever heard of it?" Carter's expression changed immediately. Her tired look was replaced by concern and anger. "Those arrogant aliens," she muttered. "Jake, that simulation is designed to be impossible. It's a test that proves no species can handle certain types of threats. They use it to show why the Galactic Assembly needs to stay in control of military decisions. So you think this is a trap?" "I think they want to put humanity in our place," Carter said. "They let us join their club, but they never let us forget we're the newest and weakest members. This is their way of proving humans don't belong at the big table." Jake nodded. He had suspected as much, but something about the situation bothered him. If the aliens just wanted to humiliate humanity, there were easier ways to do it. "What if we surprise them?" Jake said. "What do you mean?" "What if we actually try to win this thing? I mean really try, not just go through the motions until we fail." Carter was quiet for a long moment. "Jake, species with thousands of years of space travel experience have tried and failed. The Korthak Empire has the most advanced military in the galaxy. The Nexari Collective can process information faster than any biological brain. The Ethereal Dominion can see possible futures with their psychic powers. They've all failed." Maybe that's the problem, Jake said. Maybe they're all trying to solve it the same way. And you think humans can do better? Jake looked out the window of his office at the stars beyond. Earth was a tiny blue dot in the endless black of space. Humanity had only been traveling between stars for a few decades. Their ships were slower than alien vessels, their weapons were less powerful, and their technology was centuries behind the galactic standard. But humans had something else. They had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that should have wiped them out completely. They had a talent for finding solutions that made no sense to anyone else. I think humans might try something different, Jake said. And different might be exactly what this simulation needs. Admiral Carter stared at him through the screen for almost a minute. Finally, she sighed. If you want to do this, I won't stop. You, she said. But Jake, understand what you're walking into. This isn't just about winning or losing a war game. If you fail badly, it could hurt humanity's position in the galaxy for generations. And if we succeed? If you succeed, you'll have done something that's supposed to be impossible. That would change everything. Jake made his decision. I want to try. Then pick your team carefully. You'll need people who can think outside normal military doctrine. And Jake, remember that the other species will be watching your every move. They expect you to fail. Don't give them the satisfaction of failing in a predictable way. After ending the call, Jake sat back in his chair and started thinking about who he would need for his team. He would need a tactical officer who understood both human and alien military thinking, an engineer who could work with unfamiliar technology, a communications specialist who could handle the complex alien languages and protocols. More than that, he would need people who weren't afraid to try crazy ideas when normal approaches failed. Jake opened his personnel files and began looking for the right candidates. He had a feeling that humanity was about to either make history or become a laughingstock. Either way, it was going to be interesting. 3 days later, Jake sent his response to Ambassador Veltar. Humanity would participate in the Extinction Protocol simulation. The message was short and simple, but Jake knew it would start a chain of events that would change everything. He just hoped he was ready for what came next.